and then came the experience of the white light, which some people call God or consciousness, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But it was a incredible experience of oneness, where I received so much information, but it was just kind of like downloaded into my cells, and it wasn't in the same, like, it wasn't like intellectual information. It was almost like wisdom was being downloaded into my cells, and like I could understand like what this is all about. And the most important thing that I learned was that we're actually all one being. That actually at our deepest essence, that one light is what we are. And yeah, and then from that, when that realization was is fully embodied, it's like, how could you ever hurt another being or judge another being when they're they're just us?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel Within. I'm delighted to be speaking with Erica Tait today about her NDE. Welcome, Erica, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, Erica. Do you want to start with life before your NDE?
Sure. So life before my NDE was pretty dark and painful, I would say. Um, there was a ton of trauma and abuse in my childhood history, in the home. A lot of physical, mental, emotional abuse, and so yeah, I was a very traumatized soul, and got into drugs and alcohol pretty early, around 15 or so. And from there, kind of, uh, yeah, just really went deep into that world, and became an addict. And yeah, was just a wounded person, I would say. I was raised Catholic. I had a confirmation and communion and all of the things. I went to CCD, and however, like, it wasn't very practiced in my household. Like, we were kind of that family that goes to church on the holidays, and um, so although I was raised Catholic, it wasn't so much a part of my life, and I hated church, to be honest. It was like torture to me, and I could say that I was pretty much an atheist, my entire life before my NDE,
Oh, okay. And then everything changed.
and everything changed.
So, if you can walk us through the NDE,
Sure.
so take it away, Erica.
Okay. Yeah. So it was. Now it's going. I think I'm coming up on 12 years ago. Um, I decided to go on a hike by myself one morning, and and I woke up that morning with just a weird feeling in my stomach, and I remember that clearly. Now I know that as intuition, but at the time, yeah, I had no idea what that was. And I kind of bypassed it and decided to do the hike. So I was at the Palisades Cliffs in New Jersey, which are these cliffs that are along the Hudson River, which separates New Jersey from New York. And I go do the hike, and there's this waterfall that I had climbed up before, but never climbed down. And I didn't know there was a difference. And that day, the waterfall was completely dried out. And so I was a huge risk taker, daredevil type. And I decided to climb down the waterfall. And immediately, as I started, I got caught. There was nowhere for me to put my arms or my legs. And I was there for about 20 minutes. And I remember my arms just shaking because I couldn't hold myself up anymore. I was losing, yeah, just like losing control and my strength. And I waited for someone to arrive, and that day no one did. And So I had no choice. There was one rock beneath me, and it was covered in wet moss. And I remember, yeah, having to take a leap of faith and put my foot down on that rock, and it immediately just slipped. And then I fell 60 feet onto like huge boulders, and I broke my spinal cord, my pelvis, my arms, my ribs punctured my lungs, so I was suffocating, which ultimately was what like initiated the death experience. Um and yeah, I somehow was able to reach to my backpack and grab my phone, which somehow survived, and I dialed 911. However, I was so concussed and that I didn't know my name, where I was, who I was, nothing. And I was on the phone and I was just like, I don't know where I am, but I'm suffocating. I'm dying. Please save me. And I just went unconscious. And I was down there for about 7 hours before they found me. They did trace my phone, but the signals were kind of jumping off the cliffs, like, and showing that I was in Yonkers, New York, the opposite side of the river. So they had search teams looking for me around there, but they couldn't find me. And yeah, and so then being down there for those 7 hours was when I had my NDE. And just to like backtrack, the night before my fall, I was at a party and I got in a fight with my little sister about how there is no such thing as God. And I made her cry, I remember. And the next morning, I fall off a cliff and I have this experience and I meet God. And yeah, so the first thing that happened was that I left my physical body. And yeah, that was huge for me, because as I separated from my physical body, and there was a deep insight around, oh, something continues beyond death. Oh, like I am not my physical body. There's something that is actually not even Erica that survives, which was, of course, like mind blowing for me. Um, and and then came the life review, which was where my life flashed before my eyes in a moment. And I, as I said, I was super wounded and in active addiction, so I saw very clearly that I was living completely out of alignment. I saw all the ways that I was actually creating more suffering in the world. Like the saying, hurt people hurt people. And that's what I was doing very unconsciously. But yeah, my own pain was impacting all of those around me. And yeah, I got to see that really clearly, and how that actually influences what happens to me next, where I go next, or yes, and also how like far off from like the purpose of this dimension is, how far off I was from what I'm actually here for. And there was like, the only person judging me was the most objective version of me. There was no outer entity, some like, man in the sky that says you're going to heaven or you're going to hell. Like, it wasn't that. It was actually just like a deeply honest assessment of how I did. And yeah, and then came the experience of the white light, which some people call God or consciousness, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But it was a incredible experience of oneness, where I yeah, received so much information, but it was just kind of like downloaded into my cells, and it wasn't in the same, like, it wasn't like intellectual information. It was almost like wisdom was being downloaded into my cells, and like I could understand like what this is all about. And the most important thing that I learned was that we're actually all one being. That actually at our deepest essence, that one light is what we are. And yeah, and then from that, when that realization is fully embodied, it's like, how could you ever hurt another being or judge another being when they're they're just us? Like, we actually, there is no other. um yeah, so, and then And then, yeah, I think there was some guilt that actually also helped me come back into my body. It was like a joint decision between like me and spirit to come back. But I could also feel like there was a part of me that was like, I need to make up for what I've done. Like, yeah, I need a restart. I need another chance. And yeah, so I came back into my body, and something, a really amazing part about this was there was a firefighter who was off duty but listening in to the phone call, and he had a gut feeling that he knew where I was, and so he did the hike down to the cliff. And the same moment that I came back into my body, I remember like taking a deep breath in. I was like, and I opened my eyes, and then I saw his little head like pop over the cliff, and he screamed down like, Erica, like, I'm coming to save you. And yeah, and then he saved my life. And I was there. I was hospitalized for about a month, and in inpatient physical rehabilitation for another month, and then in a wheelchair, and bedridden for 6 months after that. And it was a deep process of integration between my newly purified soul and my really wounded human. And it was an awakening process, those 6 months. So yeah, that's the story.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful story, Erica. How
Yeah.
did the conversation go with your sister after this experience?
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I apologized. It was like, yeah, you were right. Like, I get what you saw now. And she was very open and receptive to my apology. And we became really close after that. We were both at my mom's house during my healing process, and every night she would come into my room, and we would just like talk about, yeah, like, just go back and forth around our the insights and downloads that we were having around, like, around our spiritual awakenings. So we became really close after that.
That's beautiful. And I like the unity consciousness or the illusion of separateness being demystified, that there is none. Because I had heard a meditation once, which you reminded me of when you were speaking, that we are caregivers in, I'm not sure if you believe in past lives, but I heard a meditation where we have been taking care of each other in so many past lives, and why would we want to hurt anybody? Because in previous lives we have been, both caregiving and the caregiver. So thank you for that. When do you remember the downloads that you were given, or when you returned, is it harder because in this human, smaller mind and body that we have?
Yeah. Um, it was way harder. It was like almost as if it was like it came through as more like wisdom than information or knowledge, and it was like I kind of just like knew things. Like I kind of understood how energy works. I understood how a lot about karma, like actions and their consequences and cause and effect. I understood about, yeah, like the power of love and yeah, what we're really doing here. Like these subjects just started to make it just I just knew it. I just knew things. I just knew it. And it was more, I think, rather than like information from the mind, it was actually more expressed in my actions and behaviors.
So, from your point of view, or from your knowledge, the wisdom that you got, what are we doing here?
Mm, yeah. So from my personal experience, what I've seen is that when we are just that one consciousness, right? When we are just one, the one the one cannot experience itself. So the one expresses, so it expresses through manifestation. So um the one becomes two and divides into infinite amounts of different expressions, but it's in order to be able to experience itself, because without it it would just be, and so we are here. What I've seen is we're here to just experience ourselves as that one, the thing, and then to remember. The problem is that we forgot on the way, along this journey. We've totally forgotten what we're actually here for, and so I would say right now, a lot of our work as a collective is to wake up and remember what we're at, what we actually are, who we actually are, what this is all about. And then from there, we get to just create heaven on earth. We get to play, we get to experience, we get to be God in human form.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for people like yourselves who come back and remind us and give us hope and tell us that it is our true essence to be co creators, that we are love, that in actuality we are one. So thank you so much for that, Erica.
Totally.
Um, in addition to talking to your sister, how easy was it for you to open up to other family and friends?
It took me a while to actually start to share, I think, to people for the most part, because it was such a deeply inner experience and I was so different, before that. But when I did start to share, I was lucky. Like, people were really receptive. Maybe there were some people like a little weirded out or like, okay, but for the most part, I've been blessed with a ton of receptivity and openness. Um, and yeah, and there was like a shift that ended up happening where I let go of lots of my old friends and environments that I was in prior, and started to attract a new frequency of beings in my life.
That makes sense. Um, did you come back with any gifts from the other side, Erica?
I think it seems that I'm pretty intuitive. So I would say, like, yes, my intuition is, I would say, pretty strong, and the ability to feel what's actually going on beneath the surface for people, being able to like basically see in the dark, I would say. I'm really sensitive to energy. That's something, and yeah, I would say those.
You know what I like in these stories as well? When it happens, the NDE, like it seems like yours was to remind you of your purpose here, and you took you took the opportunity to come back and make right, or to live in alignment with your purpose. But what I also love is hearing how the death occurred. However, it was divinely orchestrated where the firefighter who was off heard you, had this instinct, and was able to rescue you. So it's just miraculous, and everything happens, um, in that beautiful manner. And I'm sure the recuperation was not easy, but would you say it was worth it?
Oh, without a doubt, it is like the best thing that has ever happened to me. It absolutely was worth it. I'm so incredibly grateful for it. I don't wish that upon anyone, and I wish that everyone would have one. you know?
Yeah. Yes. And how did life unfold after the recuperation, and how is life going?
Yeah. I ended up going to grad school for social work, and my desire was really to to help people heal, but incorporate spirituality and help people wake up. Ultimately, my purpose was like, I'm coming back to wake up New Jersey, like to awaken consciousness in New Jersey, and so that was my mission, and it still is. And I have bigger. I've yeah, kind of expanded my range there a bit now, but yeah, I went to grad school, and then I opened my own group practice called Quantum Psychotherapy Group, where we integrate psychology with spirituality. And so we have a team of like 10 or 11 therapists that are all like deeply spiritual beings, but also licensed clinical psychotherapists, you know? Um, and so, yeah, the mission has been um, expressed in manifestation, which has been such a gift.
What a beautiful way to help heal people with um, those two art forms, not even art forms, those
Kind of.
two forms coming together. That
Yeah.
is, healing holistically, healing on so many different levels. So that's really nice. Um, did Let's go back to this being and this source or God, however we call it. What did it feel like to be in in
Mm.
that presence?
A a depth and purity of peace that I don't know is accessible um in this dimension, and absolute utter love. It was just love and peace and like bliss, and yeah, it was like there was no suffering. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was um yeah, it
I'm
was
grateful that you
mhm.
came back then, because it sounds like, it could be a hard choice to come back here.
Yeah. You know, I don't think we have too much of a I think we can choose to stay there, but I don't know if the choice is gonna it lasts. Unless I mean, this is my own belief system, I guess, but like, unless we become truly enlightened beings, do I feel like we actually can stay there, and until then we can choose, but I don't know, I don't think we'll just be that. Like, I think we'll probably keep coming back in different forms. So if I didn't come back as Erica, I'd still probably have been forced to come back in a different form. So yeah.
That resonates with me. That's such a good point that you brought, that we we would. if you didn't come back as Erica, we will be coming back in different forms and, with that same essence. So thanks for that reminder.
Totally.
Is there anything else to share, Erica, that we haven't talked about?
Mm, not so much other than like, yeah, I think something that I like to just share is that like death is safe, that like ultimately um I think within everyone, including still me on like a physical animal level, like is afraid of dying. And the more that we can remember that it's safe, but also that it's going to happen, like actually keeping death close to us on a daily basis allows us to live so much more presently and fully and without fear. And so, um, yeah, I think that's the last thing I'd end with is just to keep death close because that's what actually allows us to live.
I really love that because it really, um, we live in this society where we tend to not want to talk about it or think about it. It's hidden and sanitized, but like you said, like you reiterated, it will allow us to live such a more meaningful life if we keep death close to us. I do have three questions for you.
Sure, sure.
What brings you joy and laughter these days?
Joy and laughter. One is when I remember the cosmic joke. Like when I'm super sad, I get really stressed out, or I'm like in some kind of like mental insanity in my own mind. And then I like realize, oh, wait, the perfection of it all. That brings me a lot of joy and laughter. Um, and then also dancing, and then also being in deep intimacy with my loved ones.
Oh, that's beautiful. What would you tell young Erica who is about to embark on this beautiful journey of life?
Mm, mm. That the most important thing is to quiet the mind enough to be able to hear the truth. Yeah. And to be able to follow that impulse of truth.
That's a beautiful reminder in this world of like social media, of so many distractions. It's so nice to be unplugged and to have me time and me time with source time. So
Totally.
thank you for that reminder. And Erica, what final message or blessing do you have for those listening and for those who are probably at the edge of death or taking care of someone at the edge of death?
Mm. I think I'm going to go back to like, you have nothing to be scared of. That death is not only safe, but like so comforting, and that we are always in this together. There is no like leaving each other. It's just about coming back together in a different form.
That is so beautiful. So, Erica, since you brought that up, and I did
Uh-huh.
ask you before about past lives, did you believe in past lives before, or did it happen in the experience itself?
Yeah, the experience itself. I was definitely like a huge. I was a super science chick. I was like, we die, like we die and that's it. Like our bodies, they become soil, and that's what ends up happening is we become soil. Like, so there was no awareness around the spiritual dimension whatsoever.
Thank you so much, Erica, for sharing your story so authentically and so beautifully. And I hope everyone who is listening to this enjoyed this as much as I did.